Guys, gals, and pals, welcome back to Paint and Talk episode 14. As always, I hope you've been fine since the last time I've seen you, just generally. Usually I'd say good, but I think we're trying to keep the bar low these days. I think that's kind of the new thing. It's like keeping expectations low enough that we can all exceed them. You know, I think that's a better way to go, you know what I mean? For the time coming. Me, myself, I've been pretty okay. I think I did something. I got sushi. It's not eventful enough to talk about, never mind. So yeah, I've just been fine. Really not much going on. But yeah, today I'm pretty excited for this episode of Paint and Talk because I want to talk about something that's kind of like, I guess you could call it a fixation of mine. If you haven't been around for all the episodes of Paint and Talk, which I expect nobody to, because that would just be scary. One time, I want to say, like, really early on, I mentioned, like, fixations. And that's kind of just what I call things that, like, always come into my mind somehow. You know, and one of those things is, like, dead art forms. Like, I think about that a lot, how, art is such a... Like, it's such a changing thing, you know what I mean? Extreme example of this is, like, cave paintings. At one time would have technically been, like, the thing. Like, I wonder if during caveman times, what were they? Were they tribes? Would it be tribes of cavemen that were going around hanging out together? Or, like, whatever you would call the groups of cavemen. I wonder if, like during then, they had, like, famous cavemen painters, where they were like, I don't think they could talk, so I guess they just, like, grunted the guy who was really good at those cave paintings. And that's obviously an extreme example, but I mean, like, even more recent, like 100 years ago, a big thing was, like, radio, like, performances almost. I know, so as I've mentioned a million times, I'm, like, super into comic books, so I really only know about these from the lens of comic books, but I know, like, Superman, they would have a talk, not like a talk show, but, like, they would just read out almost like a script of, like, Superman enters the building, and then the actor for Lex Luthor would be like, you're never gonna get my golden gems, Superman, and then Superman would be like, I'm gonna stop you. And, like, they would just read that out, and people would listen to it on the radio, and that would be a very exciting thing for them. And that was, like, I wanna say that was, like, the first form of any Superman media outside of comic books. And that's something now that, like if my friend came to me and was like, I'm starting a podcast where I read out action scenes, I'd be like, you're actually insane. That's kind of funny though. Like, I don't hate that. Like, I kind of think someone should do that the more I think about that. Cause, like, yeah, no, just, like, that's kind of cool too. But yeah, no, so like art forms come and go all the time, and almost now, like, we're seeing, you know, radio's been more or less out for a while. I think it's, like, fully on its last legs, but, like, we're in a period where now TV is kind of, like, we're at the beginning of it. I wouldn't say we're in the middle, but, like, it's slowly starting to decline, and this internet stuff that you're watching right now, I mean, like, you being here watching this is proof of this if you think about it, where, like, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, maybe 15, you would totally be watching TV right now. Even when you're eating, you know, say you're, like, eating lunch while you're watching this, you would totally be watching TV. I know I could say that for myself, for sure. Like, I watch a podcast every time I eat. And, like, that's interesting, you know? And, like, the way that we all consume things kind of dictates, like, what the new art form is. And that's what I think, like, that's where my fixation part of it comes in, is, like, what dictates what's getting the eyes. Because right now, I think we're in a space where, like, books are out, right? More or less. I mean, I think a lot more people are reading. I've heard this, at least, in, like, those, like, video essay kind of things, that, like, more, like, reading rates are going up. But, like, anecdotally, you know, in the 1950s even, like, authors were famous. People would be like, oh, I'm watching the new interview with X author. And nowadays, like, very few authors are famous. The ones that are really famous, that everyone knows the name of, are from older eras. And the ones like oh my god, what's her name? Colleen Hoover, I want to say her name is, the one that does the It Ends With Us, that movie that just came out. Even someone like her, you know, I know her name and I've seen all her books. I mean, you know, all my friends have read her books and they're very popular. Apparently they're good. I mean, they must be good if everyone's, you know, enjoying them so much. Or they must be doing something right, you know what I mean? But I don't know what she looks like. Like, I don't know what she thinks about things. I don't know anything about her other than that she makes these books in this genre, you know? So like thinking about that kind of, I feel like, shows like public interest in authors is totally down, right? You can say the same thing about painters, honestly. I can't name too many painters outside of like I know of some from being here in New York where like I'll go to a gallery and see them locally. But in terms of like, we don't have a Basquiat now. We don't have an Andy Warhol where like you go, like everyone in the world knows their name because they're that synonymous, you know? So these art forms are kind of dying. And this, I just stalled again before getting my actual fixation here. But like, I always wonder, is that because of technology or is it because of like people, you know? Because TV is a great example of this, right? I think like that's a really nuanced case. Is the reason TV's going out because the technology's just kind of done its time, it's outdated, we have new technology? Or is the reason that TV going out just simply as a virtue of people are watching their phones, social media content more? Like which one is it, you know? And TV, I think, is almost, I don't want to say a bad example because it's not, but it's definitely an example that like has a pretty defined answer because it's both, right? It's pretty like obviously both, I'd say. On the one hand, you wouldn't have the other people to go watch social media if the technology wasn't there. So TV is in a way an outdated technology, but in another way, you know, it wouldn't become outdated as it is if people weren't flooding to these other mediums to go watch other things, you know? So like that's a pretty clear case of both. But sometimes this technology, I feel like, destroys other mediums. Like I would argue, and I think people, I don't really, you know, I'm not into like making a legitimate academic case or anything like that, because like, you know, what do I look like? But like, I've heard a lot of people say that like the reason reading isn't quite as big anymore is because of attention spans. And I think anecdotally, like I could relate to that, you know what I mean? As much as maybe it's not like the objective truth, I know a lot of my friends who aren't into reading as much will be like, oh no, I just don't, like I can't do it, I can't read. I know so many people like that, even myself, honestly, because I wasn't a lifelong reader. Around like, 14, 15, maybe even like 16 is when I really started reading, like making sure I was reading all the time. And when I first started reading, I had like a significant learning curve of like, I could not sit and read a whole book. I can't to this day really just sit and read for long periods of time because I don't have the attention span, you know? And in that way, is technology destroying that too? Because the reason we don't have attention spans is like, I mean, it's not because of, you know, the new cars, it's because of the new phones and all the Instagram and all this social media stuff. So like, I think there's a fair case to be made that like technology does, as time goes on, like it will just take down these older art forms. I mean, even the way that music is as an art form has been changed. Like music is here, right? It's not like music is going anywhere. Artists still make albums and all this stuff. But because of the way that we distribute music now through streaming, as opposed to what it was in the past where, you know, like you go to a label, you'd get signed, XYZ, I don't know how it goes after that, to be honest. I haven't seen that many biopics, but, you know, now what we do is like, they just release it on their own. They got to blow up on TikTok, and that's like the whole thing of how that goes. Then they get signed, then all those things come. And that's definitely not so much that music is going anywhere. And I really think music and the written word in one form or another will always be around. Same thing with like like physical depictions of things. Like, as much as I think painting is probably not quite the medium it once was, you know, no evidence, but just thinking like how I perceive it when I'm talking to people around, you know what I mean? I don't think painting's quite the medium it once was. I think like images or visual arts, that's the term. Visual arts will always be here just because, like, of course it will, you know? Now I unfortunately argue it's probably moving more towards like AI stuff, you know? I think like in 10 years, a lot of the images we're seeing will be AI. And, you know, that sort of thing that a lot of people don't like. But unfortunately, you know, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's like more cost efficient and all that. And, you know, it can still get the result that people need for their images. So I think that's going to probably end up being the next big form of the visual arts. You know, and like, I think these three will always be there in one way or another. Maybe full books won't be as big. I don't think they will be. Even though, honestly, I'm really conflicted on this. Kind of just a side tangent. Like, I could really see books making a huge comeback. And I don't mean in like, you know, oh my God, people aren't reading way, because people are reading. Like, as much as like books aren't the biggest thing in the world anymore, like people are definitely reading. But I feel like, I don't know, there's just so much opportunity there to make, like, there's so much opportunity for, there's so much that can be done with the written word. You know what I mean? And it's always, throughout history, it's only ever gotten bigger. We're at the first time where it's really gotten smaller. And, you know, maybe this is a weird answer, but like, could you make the case that like texting is our new written word that we're consuming? Because we're still consuming words written down for communication. Like, now, I guess, could you make that case that it's in the form of texting rather than books and stuff? You know, or even like it's so weird to make these points about like how books are changing, but like when you're scrolling on a any vertical, you know, shorts, reels, TikTok, which is gone soon, would you like, and you know when there's like the Subway Surfers, the Minecraft parkour footage over like a Reddit story, in a way, of course, I'm not going to argue that's ever anywhere near, you know, Don Quixote, where that would be a novel that'd be huge when it came out. I don't know if Don Quixote was, but you know what I mean. As much as I don't think it's anywhere in that realm, like, I do think there's an argument to be made that, like, that just displays that there's still very much an interest for storytelling, for the written word, but it's just kind of morphing as our attention spans morph. You know, I think the art kind of has to almost, like, I hate to say this, but like bow down to the technology, you know? Even like going back to, again, the extreme example I had at the beginning of this, of cave paintings. Cave paintings are still around. I'm kind of making one right now. You know what I mean? We're still visually depicting things. It could definitely fall into that category. But it's just, you know, we're not painting in caves anymore like we used to. Well, not we, I mean, I never painted in a cave, but like, just, you know, humans, I mean. I don't know why I clarified that, you knew that. But that, I think that's very interesting. Because that, like, almost says that, like, would someone be able to, in a book or something, put down, like, break down all of art into, like, 4 forms that have always persisted, no matter what's going on? So I started this discussion thinking my fixation was that, like, technology drives art, right? But in a way, I would say that that's kind of like that's like a very one-note conclusion. Like, that's not totally true. It's almost that technology moves and art will always, like, art finds a way to morph. You know what I mean? What's the name of that one bacteria? That one bacteria that like, is it a bacteria or is it like a type of insect? I really don't know, but there's this thing where it's like no matter what, it will always take a new form to survive. Oh my God, I'm so mad I can't remember it right now. But like, there's like an organism, I think it's a bacteria, that like, it survived for all of, please comment below if you know it, because it's gonna bother me now. It survived for like hundreds of thousands of years, because like, volcano comes, it morphs, you know, meteor hits, it morphs. It always just morphs into a new form so it can keep surviving. it's like an adaptive property. I don't know. I hate science. I don't know science. I'm really bad at it. But like, I feel like almost could you make the argument that that's what art is? Because as much as like technology's definitely shaped it. There's no arguing that. You know what I mean? There's objective cases of that. I mean, we can see them around us now. That like the TV show will probably not be what it is now in 20 years, nor will YouTube videos, but they're gonna almost occupy the same space. So art is definitely changing in that you don't have a big Hollywood production studio that's like yelling at you to make the show this, but people still want stories told to them over the course of episodes. I mean, you could make the case even, and I really don't like this to say this, but like, you can make the case that that's what this is. In a way, this is a story I'm telling over the course of multiple episodes, you know? It's the story of, you know, just me painting and my thoughts on things as I paint. It's definitely not exactly a narrative story like, in a way that, you know, Hercule Poirot was in the 80s, whenever that show was on. Don't know why I selected that one as my example, but, you know, it's definitely not that, but it's still like some form of storytelling. There's this YouTuber Antpo, who's a great YouTuber. I'm sure you've all seen him. He did that Timothy Chalamet lookalike competition. He did the Cheese Ball Man thing. He's the coolest guy ever. And he like said recently in a podcast I was watching, he was like, YouTubers are storytellers. And he's not the first person I've heard say that. I've always kind of hated it though, cause like, I don't know, isn't that just like, it's so, I don't feel like I'm telling a story. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm definitely not telling a story. You could chart every video I'll ever make and say it's a story of me. Yes. But I still don't feel like that's, I almost feel like that's cheating. That's making my life fit into a story rather than just it being what it is, me making stuff on the internet, you know? But in a way, I do understand that like you could boil everything down to that sort of formula, I guess. I just don't like it, you know? So would storytelling be one of the forms that will always be here, no matter what? That I would agree with. That I think I'll always agree with. Because even, again, novels aren't huge, but the news is telling a story now. Like, if you look at news in the 60s, like, it's very like Russia tries new economic policy. You know, attack in China. You know, presidential candidate gets up, poses this position. Other presidential candidate goes up, poses this position. You know, like, it was very flat because they had different laws and stuff. It's a whole thing. But now, if you turn on the news, like, oh my God, it's like I think if you showed our news now to the average guy in the 60s, like, he would think it is a movie. Like, right? Because he's just having a guy in black and white go on the TV and go like, you know, I think that, or not even I think, because they wouldn't really put that in there. It was very much just like Ronald Reagan went up and posed this new idea for being a hawk in Vietnam, though he did not say how he would do this policy. Like, it was super one note, very boring, to be honest. I want to say it was the 90s that those laws changed and you could make the news entertaining. Obviously now, though, we know a story happens, whether it's someone tweeting or someone, you know, doing a giant act of like horror, and they go on the news and they show videos of everything happening. They show a million different people's perspectives. They show you every tweet that's come out on the matter. They go, we have a board of experts right there. We're going to ask. We have this guy on the phone that we're going to ask right now what he thinks about this. Then we're going to get, you know, and then by the time they finish all that, they go, breaking, new info on this. Like, it's like super fast paced and super entertaining compared to it. And I mean, again, they're telling a story that's rooted in reality of something that actually happened. But there is, I think, a pretty strong case to say, like, they're storytellers, you know, that's them telling a story. Especially because oftentimes now, I mean, not oftentimes, I'd argue always now, the news, like, has a narrative. The news is not what it used to be in terms of, like, just trying to pitch you info. The news is, you know, whatever you watch, it definitely has a slant to it that everyone's aware of. I think that's the most interesting thing about that, actually, is like, you know, I have so many people in my life that watch Fox or CNN or MSNBC or, you know, whatever other news stations there are out there. I don't know. I don't watch TV. But no matter what, when you're talking to them, they go, oh no, I know this is biased. I just think it's slightly less biased than the other guy. And it's like, that's so interesting that we just like acknowledge that and go like, just move on. Like, no, like I know I'm being fed the most like super biased info, but like, you know, it's better than, you know, watching the other channel. That's weird. That's really weird. Wouldn't you want to like not do that, you know? Okay, I'm gonna try a new technique here actually in this painting. So I don't know, I haven't even spoken about what I'm painting today yet. What I'm doing is, I think today and for the Paint and Talk tomorrow, I'm going to kind of still lean into the style I did yesterday and in episode 11. Because I like the style, and I think like, this sounds really crazy to say, but like I think I'm close enough to getting it how I envision it in my head. So I want to do it like once or twice more. But at the same time, it's not exactly there. This isn't to say also that I will just like switch up everything I'm doing, like right after, like I'll never paint like this again, because I like this, I think it's cool, but what am I trying to say? It'd be weird if I settled on a style in episode 15, you know what I mean? Like it'd be weird if I was like, yep, this is the thing, I'll paint everything like this from now on. I don't think that'd be very interesting to watch, so I'm not going to do that. But I do want to play around with it a little more, you know? Maybe it'll be almost like a fallback, because I doodle a lot in this style too. Like whenever I'm just coming up with an idea for like a guy, it's usually in this sort of style. Now I'm trying a little technique that I've never tried before. I want to lighten these blues. So like I used a very dark blue. I was between this and a French blue. I didn't want to use the French blue for reasons that will be in the Instagram description of this painting. Because I think that has almost like a different context. As much as that blue would look nicer, I think almost the you know, for other reasons I didn't want to have it there. So this is a very dark blue, and I could have lightened it, but it really didn't look this dark on the palette. That's kind of on me. Well, not kind of, there's no one else here to blame, so that's fully on me. But you know, now I want to try and go through and, like, when you have it flat on the painting, it looks really nice. But when it gets, like, over here, I don't know if this will show on the camera as well as it shows in person, but it almost, when it's thicker, it turns into, like, kind of a black. Still looks cool, just not exactly what I want it to look like. But anyways, back to the topic, right? So technology, as much as maybe it doesn't change art, I think I'm kind of away from that idea now. I don't think technology necessarily like changes art. It definitely, or not, okay, wait. Technology doesn't drive art, but it definitely changes it. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think that's for the worse. And like this is where I don't know if I could say that I have like a real opinion on this, because I look back at, you know, if it's not obvious, I'm like an annoying guy who looks back at the past and it's like, oh my god, this book from 1850 is so good, it's my favorite thing this week. Like, I do that kind of thing, you know what I mean? And with that kind of comes like an inherent thing I have that a ton of guys like this have, or just, you know, not guys, people like this have, where like, I look back at the past and I'm like, that's way cooler. Like, I look at how Bob Dylan got to live his life, and I'm like, that's way cooler than me, where like, to do any sort of artistic endeavor, everyone has to be on social media now, you know? I think that's where like, I will never have a good take on the past versus the present, because it's kind of in my nature as someone who really likes all this old stuff to glorify it a ton. And I think it's just important to be aware of that. I mean, I'm definitely not the only person I've met like this. I think this is a very common thing. Because the truth of the matter is that in 50 years, people will probably be looking back at what all of us are doing with this social media thing now and go, man, that was so cool. You know, maybe then they go all the way the other direction. They don't have any way to directly, you know, post stuff for themselves. It's all PR agencies. And, you know, maybe back in 2003 or whatever, when all this stuff with Britney Spears was happening, she would give anything to have Instagram or something like that to really post her own thoughts and what she's thinking. You know, so like everything is so relative and everything seems worse than it is right now. Always, right? So like that's where I can't say that I think technology's made art worse. As someone who does glorify, books and old albums and old paintings, I inherently look at it and I'm like, we can't do that anymore and that's bad, right? Or things aren't in that form anymore and that's bad. But the truth of the matter is, I can't really say that, can I? Because, like, one, I'm here doing it. I'm here making a YouTube video. So how could I ever say it's bad? You know what I mean? That's definitely one aspect of it. But the other is just like, it could be worse. The art still exists in some form, and that's better than not, is what I think personally. So I'm still trying to lighten up these blues, by the way. I hope it's picking up on camera. It doesn't look like I'm just doing nothing on the canvas, which happens in a lot of these actually. Sorry, I want to try and remain on the topic here. Like, I do have the take that I think technology ruins things. Like, I'm kind of like a Luddite, you know what I mean? Or like a is it a curmudgeon? Like, what's the term for like an old person that like hates technology? I'm not old, but I am that way. I'm like, man, I hate this. And all my friends in STEM, I tell them that all the time. I'm like, you are ruining everything. Because I do believe that. Like, I'm like, why do we need the new phone that folds? Like, I have so many problems with it. You know what I mean? I think we're doing a bad thing by saying like all technology, no matter what, is great. I do believe that. But I think with that comes kind of the inferred belief that there was a sweet spot. You know what I mean? Almost like we had enough technology. Because I can't make the statement, it'd be super bad to make the statement like technology is bad. Because then, okay, let's go back to those cave paintings. Let's go back to the is it Paleolithic or Neolithic that comes first? The Paleolithic time. Let's go back there. And I don't want to do that either. Technology's great. I would live to I'd probably be dead already if I was in Paleolithic times. You know what I mean? I love medical technology. I love, to an extent, all the other technologies. You know what I mean? I love technology so I can listen to albums and research books to read. But there's all the bad things that come with it. You know what I mean? So I want technology, but I want just the right amount of technology where I am happy, I guess. You know what I mean? Where all of us, like, I think we've gotten to a point where some of this technology is decreasing quality of life. I think would be the maybe the thesis statement there is like, that's thesis statement sounds so like self-important. It's not that important. That's my thought, is that technology sometimes it's gotten to a point where it's decreasing just as much as it's increasing our quality of life. So like, where's that sweet spot then? Is it the 80s? Should we have stopped in the 80s? Should we have stopped at like flip phones? Because I look at flip phones and I'm like, that's great. You can text, but you don't have social media. Is the problem really just social media? I mean, I've heard, going back to the whole news thing of something that everyone acknowledges, but everyone also participates in, I'm doing that right now. I'm critiquing social media on social media. And everyone that I know does the same thing. I have not met one person who didn't say, I would get rid of social media if I could. So many people have that take. I put out a poll on YouTube once, actually, that were asked, like, if you could press a button and erase social media today, would you? And everyone said no. And I was like, yeah. Like, when I put out the poll, I thought everyone was gonna say yes, but after everyone said no, I was like, that's so true, because there's also so much good that comes with social media. I mean, like, relating this kind of back to the news, if the news is lying, like we all kind of say it is at this point, you have social media to be the counterweight. We have all these like different media sources where everyone's saying their thoughts and everyone gets to decide for themselves what to believe. That's a cool thing. That's really good. But like everyone kind of acknowledges like there's something really wrong with social media. I think it's Bo Burnham that said this. Maybe. Love Bo Burnham. Just throwing that out there. He said like I think in the future we're gonna look back on social media as like kind of like how we look at cigarettes, where everyone was doing it and hopping on it right away, but we realized it really wasn't that good for us. And I think he's right, but I think it's going to be far too late by the time we can prove that. Cigarettes were easy. We got to be like, no, these people are getting lung cancer. You know, they got to look at the lungs and realize pretty 1-2 what's going on. I don't know if we understand our brains well enough to really prove like social media is bad because it's targeting this thing and it has this in it, you know? Which I, on the one hand, like because I can, you know, do unscientific anecdotes on what I think, but it's also bad because we don't know now, you know what I mean? Because like Bo Burnham, I know Bo Burnham said this one. He was like, technology has this way of speeding things up. That's like kind of the goal of technology. Bigger, faster, better, right? He was like, social interaction is something that we never should have sped up. Social media is bad for that reason. And I think that's incredibly true. And I think that's almost what all of this is. Books have transformed into these stories on Reddit, right? They haven't, but they're still around, obviously. But like, let's say literature is shaping into this form of like short form literature being spoken on over Subway Surfers, right? That's not true, but stay with me, you know what I mean? That is speeding it up, which is, as much as I don't think that's the final form of literature that we're about to see, I think it's true that that is sped up literature, right? And my problem with that is I want to be able to sit and read a book for 3 days straight. Of course, no one's saying I can't, I still do. Like, I think it's nicer if we're in a world where you don't scroll. You have to sit and really like be very like singularly focused on what's in front of you, you know? So I think in some ways, I don't know, I think I started this with thinking with the idea of like technology drives art. I don't think that. I think technology changes art for sure. But now I think there's something else in there of like exactly how it changes it. Maybe technology speeds up the consumption of art. I guess you could probably draw a line in between that. But there's clearly there's a way it changes it in particular that kind of alienates us from the art we consume. That's all though. I think I went a little long on that. I think that was I don't know. I still have more thoughts on that, I think. I did a bad job on that. I didn't think well enough. Either way. Right, so this is the painting. It's done. It'll be on Instagram. I've been posting them later on Instagram. Originally, I intended to post them at 10 a.m., like an hour after the podcast. I'm not doing that now because a couple of reasons. One, the first couple days I was away just with some friends for the new year, and because of that, I never posted. I would only post till like 10 p.m. when everyone was inside. That's why it started, but then I realized like if I post at 10 a.m., no one, like it's spoiling the painting almost I'm gonna paint, which I know that doesn't matter that much, but like, I don't know, if everyone comes over from the Instagram, I want to give everyone the chance to watch this first and watch it get painted before they see it on the Instagram. I know it doesn't matter too much either way, but I just, I want to try and think it through so it's best for you guys that are watching, because it really is like very heartwarming, the reception to this series so far. Like, it really has been. Because, like, just like, listen, it's not like it's getting a billion views, but like, I'd say by the time it's been posted, it has like 5 or 6 views, and you see the watch time, and like, people are watching all the way through. And that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's really, like, that's crazy that you would sit and watch me paint and just talk to myself for 30 minutes about some random topic. And then at the end, just go, I did a bad job at that, and post on Instagram and tell myself how even badder of a job I did on the painting. Like, that's kind of awesome. I guess one of the ways social media is good if I'm tying it back into the topic a little bit. But anyways, you guys know the drill. Head over to the Instagram, see the finished painting. I think it looks pretty cool. And until next time, I will see you guys tomorrow. And until I see you, go outside, get off social media. I think that was I think I got to that somewhere in there, yeah.